All right, so I'm going to record. And so what we'll be covering in today's Zoom session is both the individual presentation and the do's and don'ts of business presentations. The individual presentation, of course, is an assignment where you're going to be creating a PowerPoint presentation and giving a quote unquote business presentation. However, I keep it very simple. That's why I made it your four significant life events, because I feel like those are something that you don't really need to do a lot of research on. You already know them. It just takes a little bit of time to sit down and kind of figure out what they might be and then create your PowerPoint presentation based off of that. And I'm not really concerned so much about the content of your presentation, but what I am concerned about is how you present, whether or not you follow the guidelines and rules for presentations, and then how you utilize presentation software such as PowerPoint to give the presentation, and that you understand kind of how that's a positive tool and how it can be used, etc. So that's kind of what I would like to focus on in this presentation. And then in the process of that, we will cover the do's and don'ts of business presentations. I'll be going over that with you as well. So let me go ahead and shift to our class in Canvas, which I already have set up here. So here we are on the home page. Let me stop sharing what I was sharing and then start sharing that. So here we are on the home page, as you know, and we're going to come down to Module 1, and we'll note here. So here are the two assignments. Right here, you have your discussion post number 1 and your individual presentation as well. Both of them say the 7th, but if we select the individual presentation, it should say that it's not due until the 14th right here. So week 3, record and upload your presentation. So that's when it's due, absolutely due. Does that make sense? And I put it up here too, as well. This assignment is not finally due until 9/14. So you don't need to upload anything for this assignment, just that that you're starting to work on it. That's all I care about. You can be doing it, offline on your own, but just don't wait until the last week and then
I was very tired in the whole fucking workout. But
say again.
oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You're talking to somebody else? Fine, no worries. All right, so what we're gonna do is talk about this presentation assignment. Again, I'm not grading you on the content. I am grading you on your presentation skills as well as how you utilize presentation software. So that's what I'm going to kind of cover with you today on those two things, kind of what the do's and don'ts are of that. I'm going to explain this assignment in great detail, and I'll even give you a sample of my presentation that I've done when I do this class in class. Having said all that, though, I will in the future, I am going to kind of change this particular assignment, especially for Business 22, because this is managerial communications. So I want to kind of make it a little more unique. I'm actually using the same assignment in Business 22 and Business 24, which are similar classes, but Biz 22 is managerial communications, whereas Biz 24 is just business communications in general. So I want to kind of make this assignment more managerial focused, and I will be doing that on your writing assignments coming up. But for this one right now, this is a perfect assignment to kind of give you the opportunity to present as well as to show your presentation skills, etc. So looking at then the assignment, week 1, you just need to come up with kind of your 4 points, what those 4 significant life events might be. The easiest way to do this is just to make a scratch list, it's called, of all your significant life events, and then pick the 4 that are most significant. So just think of everything in your life that you can think of. Most people do things like traveling, when they got married, when they had kids, maybe a promotion at work, graduating college, or whatever, even graduating high school. Those become kind of their significant events. And then you're going to create a PowerPoint slide presentation based on those 4 significant life events. So that's week 2, and that's what you should be working on right now. That is, you should have a title slide. So I'll show you that on mine. You should have a navigation slide. You'll learn as you study this chapter that when it comes to presenting, you should start in your introduction by telling your audience what you're going to tell them. That becomes like your thesis statement, or really it's kind of your navigation. You're going to tell them the 4 points of your life right off the bat in your introduction. So that should be on a slide. We call that the navigation slide. So here's what we're going to be talking about. You're going to tell your audience that. Then you're going to create a slide for each one of your 4 events. And this is where you're going to have what the event was, maybe a list, a small bullet list of the things you want to talk about in regards to that event, and then maybe some photographs that kind of demonstrate the event. And that'll be one slide for each of the 4 events. And then you want to have a conclusion slide that either says, thank you for listening, or some people like to use a quote or an interesting statement. Other people, again, just put questions and that's it. Or they'll even go back over their 4 points, which is actually a good practice to get into. Because again, this is what your book will talk about in a presentation. You should tell them what you're going to tell them. That's the introduction. That's your navigation slide. Then tell them, that's the body of your message, and that'll be your 4 slides, and then tell them what you've told them in your conclusion. So your conclusion slide could be a recap of the 4 points that you talked about in the presentation. Now, this is very simple in the presentation that we're doing, but when you're actually giving a business presentation, and I should add that if you get a job and you're working in a company and you're handling any projects or doing any kind of jobs, you never know when your superior might come up to you and say, hey, could you give a presentation on this to the staff, because I want them to know what we're doing or whatever it might be. So you might be in a situation where you're going to have to give a presentation, or maybe you're managing people and you're going to need to present some changes that are coming up to your constituents, and so you need to be prepared to do this. And so again, you want to tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them, and then tell them what you've told them in the conclusion by recapping your presentation. Usually that's a good way to get them to remember. So after that, when it comes to week 2 here, your navigation slide should use builds, and I'll show you what I mean by that. That you shouldn't put everything up at once, but that you should build as you're speaking. So you can do that by clicking a clicker or pressing a space bar. You're also going to want to have bullet points and bullet builds on each slide. So if you have your main point is getting married and you have 4 or 5 sub points that are going to what you're going to be talking about, you want to use that as a bullet point list, and you want to build those as well as you're talking. Don't just put everything up at once, but put up maybe the first line, and then as you're talking, you'll click your clicker or press your space bar to add more content to your slides. That's what we mean by builds. You should use pictures and graphics because this is a visual presentation, and PowerPoint is a visual presentation software. So you want to utilize visible, things that are visible that people can view, pictures, graphics, stuff like that. Make them look really neat and organized. That helps you come across professional. And then you also want to use transitions on your slides. So maybe, they dissolve out, the other one dissolves up, or the slide shifts, or the whole thing just appears on top of the old one. Sometimes students like to get real fancy on these transitions, and I don't necessarily recommend it, only because it's supposed to be kind of, even though it's your personal life stuff, it's supposed to be professional. So keep in mind, you don't want your page folding up and flying away like a bird, or curtains closing. I mean, that's cute, but it's not necessarily business. So try and keep it as professional as you can. Very important that you should always use a large enough font on your presentation slides. So when you're making your slides week 2, make sure that you have a nice size font, and ideally you should be 30 or larger. Sometimes you can get away with 28, but I wouldn't go any smaller than 28 on your, and you'd never want to use paragraphs of text, and I'll talk about that when I get to the do's and don'ts of presentation. So again, this is your presentation, and then lastly, that last bullet point is you want to follow the 6x6 rule. And what that means is when you have a slide and you have 6 bullet points with roughly 6 words in each bullet point, no more than that. So you're not supposed to have paragraphs on your slides. You're not supposed to have a bullet point with a paragraph after it. Probably a lot of you have witnessed other students giving presentations in other classes, and that's what they did. That is really a no-no. Your presentation software is not for your notes. It's to supplement what you're saying for your audience. Doesn't mean that you can't use it as your outline if you use it wisely, but don't put all your notes in a big paragraph under a bullet point on your slides. That's a no-no. Follow the 6x6 rule. which is 6 bullet points, no more than that, roughly 6 words for each line of bullet points, and that's pretty much the max. So that's next week, or that's this week. And then next week, you're going to record your presentation. And you can see here that the easiest way to do it is in PowerPoint. And I'll show you how to do that in a minute when I show you my presentation. But you can do it all in PowerPoint. You basically go to slideshow, you select record, it'll count down 1, 2, 3, 4. You'll be able to put a video of you in a little box in the corner or a circle of you so that you can see yourself, and then you can actually once you click record, you can actually go through your presentation and actually give it, and it's all being recorded by PowerPoint as you do it. And then when you're done, you click stop recording, and then when you exit PowerPoint, it'll have you save that presentation, and that's what you're going to upload once you're done. Now, you're also welcome to upload it, excuse me, to Vimeo or to YouTube. Sometimes it's a little easier when you do that for me to grade it. Sometimes it gets really large in PowerPoint and it's very difficult to upload it to Canvas, and it won't upload. It'll just say submitting and you'll be waiting and waiting and it seems like it went, but you're not sure. Canvas and large files in Canvas aren't necessarily too friendly to one another. So it may be better once you're done recording it is to upload it to YouTube and then copy the link from YouTube into Canvas. And that's probably the best and easiest way to do it. Most students do it that way. I do prefer that you use PowerPoint, but you are welcome to use other softwares if you don't have access to PowerPoint. The problem is there is some limitations on some of the things I'm recommending, like builds, etc. And of course I'm showing you how to do this in PowerPoint. So you can use other software though. Just keep in mind that it may not be as versatile as PowerPoint is. All right, so the presentation guidelines are this should be 5 minutes, no longer than 5 minutes. If you go over 5 minutes, you will lose 10 points. So if you go over 5:05 or 5:10 or 5:01, you lose 10 points. So it has to be between 4 minutes and 30 seconds and 5 minutes in length. If you're tech savvy, PowerPoint, once you record it, will actually let you set how long it is. So you can, if it's 5 minutes and 30 seconds, PowerPoint will let you set it for 5 minutes if you know how to do that, and that it can be done. Or if it's 4 minutes and 15 seconds, you can stretch it out to 4:45 by going into PowerPoint and asking it to do that. It'll just cause you to speak a little slower or speak a little faster, and you probably wouldn't even notice the difference. So anyway, so that's what you'll do. And again, you're going to be graded on the quality of your slides, how they appear, how professional they are, and then how well you present. Were you loud enough? Did you get on a rabbit trail? Did you go too long? Those kinds of things. So, all right, so that's the assignment. Any questions on that before I show you my presentation? Okay, you guys good? All right, so let me go to PowerPoint. I already have this loaded. So I'm not going to give my presentation. I'm just going to kind of go through my slides and show you what I'm talking about. So now everything I just said, I'm going to demonstrate for you in this presentation. And this is kind of what you're looking to do. And by the way, I was just there, but on the home page, let me go back for a second. I'm going to reshare this. On the page you were just looking at, it did have a link for you to download my presentation or view it right there. So if you want to do that, you're welcome to do that. But here we are on my presentation. So basically my title slide is this. So hi everybody, my name is Eric Doucette, and I'm going to talk today about my 4 significant life events for business communication, fall 2025. And in no particular order, these are my life events. So now I go to my navigation slide. That's the next slide. So number 1 is getting hitched. Number 2 is touring the world. Number 3 is being on mission. And number 4 is down by the river. So let's look at these each. First one is getting hitched. So then I go through and I talk about getting married. I got married back in 1986. And there's a picture of my wife and I on the left, and that was us on the right. Then I had a son in 1990. We had our daughter Miranda in 1995. And that was about a 10-year-old or 15-year-old picture now. My daughter got married in 2018. I officiated the wedding for that, and then my son got married in 2021, and then we had our first granddaughter in 2021 and our second granddaughter in 2025. So there's our first granddaughter, And then there she is getting a little older. And then there's our newest one. Second is touring the world. So in the 80s, I was in a hair metal rock band. We were a Christian band, but there's a picture of us. Back then, we loved hairspray, and we sprayed our hair up. My hair got even longer than in that picture. We performed all around Los Angeles in churches and small pay-to-play clubs. Our band's name was Spectra, and 30 years later, they mentioned us on, I think it was KLOS. They were doing some kind of local thing, and they were talking all about the 80s bands back in the 80s, metal bands, and they brought us up, and it was not positive. It was all negative, and they were mocking us. But I figured, hey, any press is good press, and they mentioned us 30 years later, so that was pretty cool. And then lastly is on mission, or thirdly is on mission for God. So I was a pastor at Harvest for 10 years over in Riverside. I was also a crusade director. I put together the harvest events at Anaheim Stadium that you see happen every year. I was a director for that. I got to travel all around the country and put together events. Then I left Harvest in 2004 and started a little church out in Grand Terrace. And that's a picture of our church a few years ago. So I also went back to college and got my MBA. So then I started teaching college classes as well as pastoring a church. And now I'm a full-time instructor at Norco, and I'm still pastoring the small church. And then probably the most significant event of all in my life is what I call Down by the River. I don't know if you ever saw the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, with George Clooney. And anyway, there was a guy named Delmer who they escaped prison. They were trying to find some treasure, and he goes down by the river one day and sees a bunch of people being baptized, and so he decides, Delmer does it, he wants to be baptized, and he comes up out of the water and he says, I've been changed. My old ways are gone and I'm going to live a new life now. And so the rest of the movie, he's struggling to live the new life. And it kind of reminds me of my story. I was raised in a very religious home my entire life, but I still live by my own motto: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I figured as long as I wasn't doing all three in any one weekend, I was okay with the man upstairs. But my life was obviously on the wrong path and empty. And so I ended up coming to faith in Christ and became a Christian and began following the Lord and started getting involved in ministry. And so I've been doing that ever since for 30 plus years. So that's my story. Does anybody have any questions? All right. So that's a sample. Now, obviously, your four events are going to be different. I had made some mistakes in my presentation that I will correct. They're not it's not perfect. There's still some things that are wrong with it. Like for instance, I did use too many pictures, but then again, I'm a proud grandfather, so I can do that. But I expect you to keep your pictures at a minimal and try not to build over your slides like I did. I just kept adding pictures. But you might say, well, how do I do a build on my slide? So I'm going to show you how to do that first. Basically, the first thing you want to be concerned with is build the whole slide. So you don't have any animations yet on your slide. So you just build it. And I basically, to build this slide, I added text boxes by coming up here and doing insert. Let's see if I can get there. So at the top, I did insert text box. I think it's down here. And I put a text box. I'll just do one for you real quick. I just selected that, and I came down here and I made a box, and then I typed in there hitched, and then I can move that wherever I want it by just selecting the arrow. And I can change the size of the font, etc. And then I just downloaded pictures from Google. So I went to Google and looked up Hitch, and I picked this one, and I looked up touring, and picked that one, etc. And then I just placed them all on the slide by inserting pictures. So you can either insert a picture here or you insert a text box here. And once I built the slide the way that I liked it, then what I did was I animated it. So if you come up here to PowerPoint and you look at animations, select that, and it allows you to animate. Notice how mine's all numbered already. I'm animated. So hitched is going to come up first, and then the picture is going to come up with it second. That's number one. And then number two, they're going to come up together. Number three, they're going to come up together. And number four, they're going to come up together. So that tells me how I've animated my slide. And if I play the slide from that point on, it says, oops, sorry, continue to share. Yes. It's weird. Asking me to continue to share. Sorry. The wrong one here. Where am I at? Yes, can I say yes? Okay. All right, so now if I select my, it's showing me how it's animated. See, so I'm just selecting the space bar or the arrow bar. And so that's showing me that it's working. So I'm going to go ahead and escape that. And here we are back on this screen. They also have a thing here called the animation pane. So if you select that, it'll open it up. And it actually tells you the order in which your pictures are going to appear. So notice they're all there. I could erase all these out. I can select this. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm using the wrong computer. So I can select this. Sorry, let me do that. So I can delete all these. So now I have no animations. So if I have no animations, what'll happen when I share my screen here is that it will, let's see, it'll all come up at once, see? So continue to share, watch. So if I'm on my previous slide, now I go to this slide, everything's up at once. That's what I mean by not using builds. Everything came up at once. So I want it to come up in parts. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both hitched, and I'm gonna select the picture, and then I'm gonna hold the shift button down, and I'm gonna select hitched. Notice how they're both selected. Then I come up here to animations, and I just do, okay, I'm gonna do blinds. That's how it's gonna come in. All right, so now that one's animated. Then I go next to touring. I select the text, I select the picture, I come up to animations, and this time I'm gonna do checkerboard. And then I'm going to go to on mission. I'm going to select that. I'm going to select, hold the shift button down, select the picture. This one I'm going to do fly in. And by the way, you should only use one transition, but I'm showing you that you can use others or do others. Then I'm going to select the next two. And this one I'm going to do, let's do stripes. All right. So now they're all animated. And notice on the animation pane that it put them in order over here. So I can move them around if I want. If I think, oh gosh, I really wanted, touring to come up first, I can shift it in this little pane right here, and I can put touring first. So now touring is number one, hitched is number two, mission is number three. Oh wait, I have touring out of order. I didn't mean to do that. I want to go back so I can move it down to here. Let's see. And then I'm going to take my picture and put it right after that. So now I have everything in order. Now I can check it. I can check it here. I can just click this little arrow and it'll do the whole slide all at once again. Or it goes too fast, I can just come back down to the bottom here and I can select the little play cup and then I can hit, oops, each of them, hitched, touring, on mission, by the river. So that's how you animate. And you should do the same thing, by the way, on the other slides. Like, let's go to this one. Notice how these ones are already numbered. I have one, and then I have that picture, two, that's behind the other one. Then I have number three, which is this other picture over here. Then I have four, which is this next line. Then I have five, which is this next line. Then I have six, which is this picture. And then I have seven, which is this line. You might say, how did you animate the lines? I just selected them. So just selected it and went to animations. Each line individually was selected and animated. So that way now the whole thing builds. When I click that, there it goes. Every time I'm hitting the button, it builds the slide. So again, how do I do this? I build the whole thing first, and then I add the animations after. That's how you build it. All right, any questions on that? All right. So now I'm going to show you how to record your presentation. So that's another important aspect of this. So in PowerPoint, what you're going to want to do is go back to your, so now let's just say you're all done. You've practiced working through your slides in the slideshow mode. Now you want to record it so that you can upload it to me. So what I'm going to do is I'll move that to the bottom. So up here at the very top, you have slideshow. So select slideshow and then go ahead and select record right here. Okay. Now what it's going to do is opens up this other page. And if you notice, it has a picture of me down the bottom here, a little circle of me. And then it also has this bar at the very top. See the bar at the top? And it has trash, it has a time thing, it has a pause, it has a red button, and then it has a camera, and it has a audio. So this is, if you don't want your camera, you can turn that off. So if you go, I don't see a picture of me, maybe your camera is crossed out. So go ahead and select that so that you're in the picture. And then on your, same with your audio, if you're not hearing yourself, you can select which audio device you want. And so I have audio on, I have video on, I can see myself in the picture down here. So now I'm ready to record. So all I do is I click this button right in the middle, record. It counts down. And I say, good morning, everybody. My name's Eric Doucette, and I'm here to give you my presentation on my 4 significant life events in no particular order. And I'd like to start with the first one. My first one is getting hitched. And second one is touring the world. The third one is on mission for God. And the fourth one is down by the river. It's kind of slowly loading. But anyway, if you notice at the very top, it's recording up here. So when I'm done with my recording, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys listening to my presentation. Just click the record button. And there we go. And then it's saved it as a video. And I believe when you exit out, it's gonna allow you to save that. If not, then you're gonna have to navigate to PowerPoint and look for it. But it's gonna be a PPTX file, so you can just search for .pptx and that'll be fine. And you'll find it. Anyway, so that's how you record it. And then once you get the file from being recorded, you should be able to just double click it and watch it, and it'll play it back for you. And if you want to submit it to YouTube, you can do that. So, all right, do I have any questions about that? Are you guys still with me? Because I have 10 minutes, and I'm gonna go ahead and go over the do's and don'ts of business presentations now that I've explained this. So everybody's good?
Yes.
It's good.
Okay, thank you. All right, so let me stop sharing for a second. How come I'm not? Let me just close PowerPoint. Oh, there you are, where you can save it or don't save it. When you close PowerPoint, it'll let you save it. So I'm gonna not save it. All right, let's see. So let me go back. I'll go ahead and do this last thing last. So let me open this. I already have it up and ready. I just need to do one thing here. So give me a second. So this is where I just go over the do's and don'ts of business presentation. By the way, this is really your discussion post assignment. So you're welcome to use this list as your final list that I'm going to be going over, and that's fine. But make sure you at least do your initial list before you do this list. If you've not done the assignment yet, I'm assuming, before you do it, maybe just do it from memory, and then when you're all done and you're ready to give your final list next week, you can just use this list as your final list. Or, maybe you have some things that I'm missing that you think could be better. Either way, it's fine by me. So, but I'm looking predominantly for a few things in this list, and if you don't have them, it'll lower your score. And if you do have them, then it'll be great. So, all right, so before I share my screen, okay, I'm going to share it now. All right, here's the do's and don'ts of business presentations. So we'll start with so really it should be 2 lists. It should be when you present and then also how you use your presentation software. I kind of combined all that in the assignment, so now we'll separate them out so that you know exactly what we're looking for. So first thing is, what are the do's when you're giving a presentation, whether this is in an office environment, whether it's in another class, whether you're learning to present, you're going to do a TED talk someday, whatever. These are things that you want to do regardless, that will help you become just a better presenter. You'll find some of these in the videos that you're watching as well, but this is really what I'm looking for predominantly. So the first one is be prepared, know your topic. And your book talks about, know your audience and know your purpose. Those are 2 very important things when it comes to preparing, but just be prepared, do your homework, make sure you understand what you want to talk about and say. Make sure you put in the effort and time when you're building your PowerPoint slides. Know your topic, know your subject. The more you do, the less nervous that you'll be. Secondly is practice. So nothing wrong with standing in front of a mirror and going over it 3 or 4 times, timing yourself, finding those areas in which you don't like what you said, or maybe you're using a lot of ums and and likes and all that kind of stuff that are interrupting the flow of your message. So just practice. That's always going to help. Make sure everything works before starting. So if you show up to give a presentation, don't, like today, we had a lot of problems, right? I was late getting here and now I had all these problems in my presentation. So it came across very unprofessional in all honesty. So get there early, be prepared. And then before you give your presentation, if you have videos that you're going to play, if you have sound that needs to be working, make sure you check all that. So that way you're ready to go when the presentation starts. Very, very important. If you're in a room where there's no microphone or no ability to project your voice, make sure you do it. So speak loud, speak confidently and speak loud and make sure people can hear you in the back. So as you begin to speak, maybe even say, "Can you hear me in the back?" And if they nod, then you're good volume. But the biggest problem most students have and a lot of people have in presenting is they talk very soft. Hi, my name is Eric Doucette. I'm going to give you my presentation today on the four most significant life events. And they talk at the volume that they would be talking to you if you were sitting next to them to the entire class. But the people in the back are never going to hear you. So if you're giving a presentation, speak loud, even almost to the point where you sound like you're shouting. Then you know everybody hears you. And to be honest with you, the louder you speak, sometimes it makes you come across more confident. So keep that in mind. Next is smile and look at your audience. So definitely make eye contact with your audience. Don't stare at your slides. Don't turn your back to the audience and read the slides. Don't look down at your cue cards or notes if you have some. Make eye contact. You can look down and read. You can look at the screen and read for a second, but then turn around and look at your audience. That's very important in a presentation. Don't stare at people either, but make eye contact with people around the room. That's going to help you become a better presenter. Very important, if you can, is grab the audience's attention in your opening. In fact, your book recommends you memorize your opening line of your presentation because you really want to use that as the hook to bring people in. So if you're giving a presentation on sales, or I did one time on flossing your teeth, so I showed some pictures of people that didn't. I showed President Obama with no teeth. I showed celebrities with no teeth, how different they looked, and it really grabbed the attention of the audience, right? And then I'm talking to you today about flossing your teeth and why it's important. So use something to grab your audience's attention at the very beginning. Give your presentation extemporaneously. So you should never read your notes and you should never read the screens in their entirety. You can look at the screens, you can read the bullet point you've made that's 6 words long, and then you can go from your memory. So extemporaneously means just from the, off the cuff, you've studied, you've prepared, you've practiced, and now you're speaking from your knowledge, you're speaking from your heart. You're not reading notes. If you read notes, it sounds like you're reading, and if you memorize, people can tell that you're memorized it. I used to judge these lectures over at JFK for the college students, the high school students, sorry. And you could tell the ones that memorized it because they'd forget where they were and they'd go back and repeat the sentence again until they remembered what came next. Well, that's no way to give a presentation. Just speak from your experience, speak from your heart, speak from your knowledge. That's going to make you a better presenter in the long run. Be conversational but professional. So you don't have to sound like you're an orator. You don't have to have flowery, descriptive language. Just speak like you would that you're talking to your friend or your buddy or whatever. Be careful of using too much slang, however, but just speak in normal, clear, everyday terms, conversational terms, but professional. Again, you don't want to be too slang or you don't want to be too informal, but also not too formal. That's just as bad. So it kind of sounds stuffy. And then most of all, just be yourself. Let your personality shine through your presentation. That's extremely important. And that's always the most relieving. It's like I can just be myself. I'm not trying to be my professor. I'm not trying to be this Martin Luther King Jr. I'm not trying to be, this great orator. I'm just trying to be me. And that's people will appreciate that. All right, what not to do. Don't stare at the screen or slides. So when you're presenting, you don't want to be looking at the slides the whole time and reading them. That's unfortunately what we've seen students do. So be careful of that. Don't read off the slides. So another thing, don't read your notes on your cue cards. Don't speak too softly or mumble. Be watchful of verbal tics, the ums and the ahs and the you knows. And then as far as the presentation software, very important that you make an outline before making your slides. that you keep your slides simple. Don't feel like you have to have so much going on. Use colors that contrast well. You should have good dark and light backgrounds or text. Don't use green and red. Don't use yellow and blue, things like that. Use pictures and graphics as a must. Follow the 6x6 rule. 6 bullet points, 6 lines. That's it. Make your fonts 30 size or larger. 28 you might be able to get away with, but anything smaller, your audience won't be able to read it from the back of the room. Use builds. I showed you that. That's what I'm doing right now. I'm building my slides one thing at a time. And then definitely use a navigation slide. Don't use your slides as notes. That's not what they're for. Do not have paragraphs of text. Again, follow the 6x6 rule. If you have a paragraph of text, you went wrong somewhere, so don't do that. Use small fonts. Don't use small fonts. They make it difficult for your audience to read. Don't have any typos. It shows lack of professionalism. And just don't have too much going on your slides. Too many transitions, too many things swooshing around, etc. And that is it. One of the reasons I like to use builds is it allows your audience to track with you a little better. If you put everything up on your slides at the same time, then they're already looking at the fourth point you're going to talk about when you're still talking about point number one. So if you use builds, they're able to track with you a lot better. So, all right, so that's pretty much it. I think there's a little video in there on called The World's Worst Presentations. I encourage you to watch that. If you can't find it, I'll send it to you, but I ran out of time to go over it with you. But all it is kind of some of these do's and don'ts visually. So that's pretty much it. Any questions before we go?